This conference will now be recorded. This conference will now be recorded.
All right. Thank you guys for joining the call. This is awesome. This is kind of the best part of what we do, is getting to kind of see everyone from all the other stores and kind of share best practices, so that way we can grow each other's revenue. So today's topic is to kind of review best practices on the in-person sales process. Before we get started, is there anything that you guys wanted to specifically address or review? I know we had sent out a bit of prep work for that prior.
No, sir. We're all good over here.
Everyone's good? Okay, so we're going to go through it in the series that's described in Franchise Blast, right? So we have our brand standards when it comes to the in-person sales process. These items are what we've found are successful in terms of conversions, if there is a fit, right? So those series are basically the greeting, to the probing phase, to the tour, and then finally ending in the offer, right? So let's start with the greeting. So what's the purpose with the greeting for you folks that you've found? And what has worked best in terms of getting the greeting to be most effective? Anyone can chime in.
I guess it's the stands.
What helps me going would definitely be I like to be able to personalize each and every conversation that I have with people. So just working here, obviously you get to learn pretty much everyone's name that comes through the door, because you see it when they check in. So when they come, I like to say their name. As far as a guest, I just like to immediately. I just let them know I want to address them properly. I want this conversation to be as comfortable as possible. So I'm just going to talk to them as if they're my friend. Makes them feel very comfortable with me. I made a lot of friends here accidentally just trying to sell.
No, that's exactly the approach that I want you to take. Anybody else want to add to that or chime in?
For us, I guess along with the greeting and everything like that, ask them how they're going. And we kind of like fit in how was the drive? How far was the drive? Was it all right drive to get here? Kind of that's one of the things on our questionnaire. So we can kind of tackle that right there. And then most people like whether it's a longer, shorter, long thing, so we can like limit that reason for not closing the deal as well.
Great input, Zach. Yeah, it's definitely one of the things that we're going to unpack when we get to the probing phase, right? But just to stick with the greeting part, as KJ suggested, it's our opportunity to really earn their trust, right? Because we're going to be asking them a series of questions, and it's basically probing them. And if you haven't earned their trust, they're probably less likely to give you honest answers. And if they're not giving you honest answers to your probing questions, then you can't necessarily provide them a solution that's the best fit, right? So it starts from the beginning, as KJ suggested. We need to build rapport with them, right? So find some commonality, and, just like meeting with anyone for the first time. Just get to know them a little bit, share a laugh, and you build that connection. Once you build that connection, you earn a bit of trust, right? And they see that you're looking out for their best interests. And if they feel that way, they're more responsive to your probing questions to give you honest responses. Yeah?
Yes,
any
sir.
questions about the greeting? Nope. Okay, perfect. So moving on, again, the purpose of greeting is the greeting. We stand, smile, say something sincere to show that we care. And then we attempt to build rapport and earn their trust through building a connection. So the next portion is the probing phase. So I think Zach was hinting on this a little bit as far as kind of asking some questions to be able to identify a few things. So what are some of the things that we're looking for in the probing stage? What's the purpose of our probe?
To get more information, like why, what brought you to the club today? Are you here for like why? Essentially, there for personal training. Are you the 5-on-5 officiated runs that got like essentially what what made them come to the club today? What they're most interested in?
100%, right? So, our club has a variety of different offerings, right? So we can be recreational in nature in terms of our open gym or our officiated pickup games. Or we can be focused on training, whether it be for youth, for the group training, which is their primary focus, or more intense training in our private training offerings, right? Or people just want a gym that's not crowded, that they can come in, work out, and not have any obstructions to their time, right? So we're different things to different people, and we don't know who walks in our door what they're looking for unless we ask, right? So that's the importance of the probing phase. Anybody else want to add to that?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I think it sort of happens naturally in a way. After the greeting, you're just kind of saying, like, what brings you in today? What are you interested in? What can we, just finding out, what their goal, like, what are the goals? That's one of the points I think you guys stress is, and that just kind of starts building up a conversation. And then it's having a normal conversation. I think that leads about the gym leads to good questions and probing and finding out exactly what they are looking for.
That's right. Yeah, the battle is won in this stage, right? The better you get to know your prospect and the more that you are able to put yourself in their shoes, the better you are equipped with actually finding solutions for them and converting them ultimately. What's up, Ash?
What's going on, guys? Sorry, our fault. We were having a little
No
trouble.
worries.
Guys
We
sounded
know
like
how Baltimore does.
on our stuff over here.
Welcome to the
Everybody,
call.
though.
Hey guys, this is Ashley. She's joining from our Towson store.
Hey, Ashley.
Hey guys, what's going on?
So Ashley, we're in the probing phase now. Before that, we were talking about the greeting. So one of the things that we were mentioning during the greeting phase is the importance of it is to build rapport, right? To build that connection so we can earn their trust. And so when we get to the probing phase, we are able to uncover and unpack their core values, their goals, their pain points, and things of that nature. Did you have anything to add for the greeting that worked for you?
Yeah, I mean, nothing in particular to kind of really add to that, but I mean, obviously, you guys we're on the right track. It's obviously building that rapport, and even more so before that on the phone conversation, kind of adding whatever you got that connection was on the phone, trying to maybe have that connect again as you see them on the greet, to kind of break down those walls. So yeah, I'm thinking obviously all that kind of good stuff helps.
Any particular kind of tips as far as breaking down those walls? What's going on, Kelvin? Good seeing you, brother.
What's up, my man?
Yeah. Gotcha. And you said anything in particular?
Yeah, any tips that you have that you found work as far as breaking down walls and being able to build that rapport?
I think, obviously I don't know how the clubs are kind of built out. Ours is, when they kind of walk in, it's for them to kind of throw it back on them to say, man, like, what do you think about the place? I think obviously Pickup USA shows something completely different, especially for our area, of offering something just completely different, the way that it looks. So just, hey, what do you guys think? What do you think when you're first walking in? To kind of, again, break down those walls, kind of throw it back on them to kind of start talking a little bit. So we just, as the sales representative, we just don't kind of just start, talking, throwing things at them first.
And that's a good way to kind of qualify them, right? To kind of gauge their initial reaction to see if this is something that's intriguing to them or not, right? Because we all know that time is probably the most valuable resource that we have. So the sooner we're able to identify who's a qualified prospect and who's not, the sooner we can focus on people that is actually going to make us money. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so we've moved on to our probing stage, and the purpose of it is to really identify their core values, right? And as far as those core values, Dan, you hit on one of them. What are their goals, right? Why did they come in? What are they? Conversely, we also have to identify what are their struggles elsewhere that they're trying to avoid, right? What are their pain points? That way we can see if that's something that we can resolve with our offerings. Kelvin, I think you had something to add to that.
I was actually just muting the phone, but if you could repeat the question, I could put some input for sure.
Yeah, no. We were talking about kind of unpacking, their goals and pain points. What's your best? What have you found is to be the best approach to be able to get to the core of your prospect?
Yeah, so I mean, as far as that's concerned, I usually start off every conversation the same. I like to kind of frame how the meeting is going to go. I start off with just kind of introduction, kind of finding out more about them. And then we go from there. I ask a lot of probing questions about figuring out, again, like you said, some pain points they may have, what exactly they're looking for in a gym. I mean, how often they, play basketball, what their basketball level is. And that kind of gives me an opportunity to take their answers and confirm. Obviously, that's what they're saying. But the biggest thing is to find out any potential pain points for them. So, for example, if they are, someone who wants to come in and have, more of a private kind of workout and not have as many people around, if that's one of their pain points and they can't find that at a park or another gym, then, I would give them some of the potential hours in our club where they could come in and have some privacy to themselves, so a little earlier in the day. So stressing things like, if that's one of their pain points as far as time of day to come in and, stressing our hours of operation, letting them know that we have availability for when they do have time, and just matching our offerings to what they're looking for. So it's kind of a feature benefit going back and forth. And that's the best way to really just find those pain points, is to ask those questions and offer solutions.
I love that. Yeah. So one of the things that you had mentioned there is really identify how you can align what they're looking for with what we do. And you're just going to kind of guide them to that solution that we offer. So that's exactly a beautiful thing. But starting back from the beginning of what you were saying, you had mentioned that you frame the sorry guys, I'm going to plug in my phone or my laptop in a second, but you frame the conversation. So that's one of our brand standards. Are you guys familiar with the purpose behind framing the conversation prior to kind of going through a probe? I'm listening. I'm going to be out of this week.
By framing, are you just mean like guiding where you're going to take the conversation? Is that what you mean by frame? Right. Okay.
Does anyone have a response to Dan as far as what the purpose of framing is?
Yeah, so Dan, to answer your question, that is part of what we do, or at least, what we teach as far as the process. That kind of gives the client a good opportunity to know exactly what they're going to be expecting. So what we do, and in that first process where they walk in, I let them know, hey, so this is what we're going to do today. We'll ask a few questions, and then we'll go take a tour. And then we'll go ahead and come back to the desk and start talking about pricing. So when you first ask those questions, a good thing about asking those questions is, again, finding those pain points and figuring out how we can solve that issue of a pain point by what we offer. And then once we do that and we take the tour, it gives us a chance to actually see that value. So once we take that tour and we talk about training and we talk about how they can build themselves, as we take the tour, I'm showing them the gym. I'm letting them touch the equipment. I'm letting them see the Vertimax machine. And those are the things that gives them a tangible feel of what we offer. And then from there, they have the tangible feel, they have the details, and then the last thing is just to figure out the pricing and what membership will work best. But by that time, I already have a good idea of what they want just from the conversation that we've had and how I framed it.
I love that. Yeah, that's a great. I think that's definitely something I got to start doing, is telling them kind of from how this is going to work from start to finish. So then 100%. They feel more comfortable too. So that's right. Awesome.
That's the purpose of it. In addition, everything that Kelvin hit on was spot on, right? So we framed the conversation in the beginning because, as you had suggested, Dan, anybody that's sitting across from us as a prospect has a certain level of anxiety because you're essentially trying to take their money from them, right? And so they're going to be a bit guarded about that, if you're sitting across from them in the sales desk. So to alleviate some of that anxiety, we can let them know the process, exactly how it's going to go. Hey, Dan, what I'm going to do is ask you a few questions just to get an understanding of what you're looking to do. And then I'll guide you around the facility and show you what we have to offer. And after that, we'll come back to the desk and go over different membership options. Is that fair? So that way, I'm sure you guys have seen this before. People try to bully the conversation. Hey, what's the membership pricing? Hey, how much is it? How much is it monthly? How much does it cost? Right? So if they're asking that and you give in, that doesn't allow you the opportunity to build enough value to make those pricings make sense to them, right? So a good way to kind of remove that and kind of regain control of the conversation is to frame the whole conversation again. Yeah, I'd love to share with you the different membership options. I just want to first get an understanding of what you're looking to do so we can show you our different solutions here. And then we'll go over the best membership options that fit you. Is that fair? So again, just regaining control of the whole process. Don't allow these guys to bully you.
Okay, perfect.
And then once you get that, then you start actually going through that series. So the probing phase starts with very softball questions, right? Because if you ask deep diving questions right off the bat, they're not going to be really receptive to giving you that information, right? So you need to slowly peel back their onions. So a good softball question to ask to gain control of the conversation, and this also is on the phone. Hey, so how'd you find out about us? Right? That's information that people are freely willing to give. Oh, yeah, I heard about you through Instagram. Oh, okay, cool. So what on Instagram, we have different offerings here. What on Instagram really caught your eye? Is it our open gym or our pickup games or our training? Because those are really the three different things that people use our gyms for. You guys agree?
Absolutely.
So they may be all three, or they may be just two of the three, or just one of the three, but you don't know that unless you ask. Yeah. And then they're going to open one of those doors. And as you open that door, you can explore that room a bit more. So if the room that they want to open is officiated pickup games, right? I want to explore that room more thoroughly and probe even more. Okay, cool. Where do you hoop right now? Right? So that opens the door to a closet in that room to get you an understanding of who they are, what they enjoy elsewhere. Oh yeah, I play at 24-hour fitness, but they're closed right now. Oh, makes sense. Yeah, when they were open, how did you like it over there? It was cool. This is a hit or miss, something along those lines. Oh, okay. Hit or miss. I've heard that often. What does a hit look like over there? Oh yeah, hit. There's gonna be like probably 50 people there just waiting to get in the games, and it's okay. How do you like that? How do you like that experience? To be honest with you, it's a long wait. I have to wait for a long time to get into the games. Okay, what does that look like? How long is the wait? Oh, probably I would say maybe a half an hour, 40 minutes. Okay. Oh, it's not that great, huh? Yeah, it isn't. So now they're going to try to convince themselves essentially why they need a different solution for what they're looking for, just because you unpacked it through a series of questions.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Does that make sense? So it starts from a very high level. You open the door, and then in that door, you get to open another room. And in that room, you get to open and unpack the closet. And then in that closet, you get to the jewel box. And in that jewel box, you find the core value that they actually really need a solution for, right? Because if you just ask a surface level question, you're not necessarily helping them. Keep probing, right? Keep unpacking them until you get to their true pain point and true goals. Anything to add with that, KJ, from what you've seen? Or Carlos and Zach?
Excellent. No, so I feel like it was pretty thorough as far as like at the beginning, like you're pretty much building your pitch catered towards them with that probe, like because like no, essentially it's like a dad with a kid who's looking for with like a 8-year-old who's starting out. Then you more so skip like the fitness room and stuff like that. You're just going and then throughout your pitch, throughout your tour, you're touching on stuff that's going to matter to them. Hey, my son is just starting out. He really wants to get the fundamentals down, get dribbling and handling and stuff like that. So during obviously the meat of your pitch, the meat of your tour with them, you're gonna spend on letting them know, hey, developing for our club, for instance, 7 days straight of that group basketball training. You have that hour-long block. Yeah, obviously gonna see a lot of improvement with that. That's like the biggest value, and I even say use the word value because the biggest value of our membership is making sure he's utilizing as many days as possible with this. You're scheduled to work with this and stuff like that. And then so yeah, essentially just that probe is like probably one of the most important parts in building your pitch and making sure that's catered for them for each different person.
Yeah, and to dive into that even further, you can continue to probe beyond that, right? So again, that's you're exploring that room, but get to the core of it, right? Oh, what's the son's name? Where does what team does he play for right now? What are the coaches looking for him for his development? Where does he feel that he can improve on, and where does he feel most uncomfortable at? That if he was able to resolve this issue, that he would see his goals, that he would make his team or whatever that looks like. And furthermore, what's the deadline? When does the season start? Right? When does all of that? Unpack everything, so that way you can build urgency. Right? If the season starts next month, you know that he needs this now. So there's no excuse as far as, oh, let me think about it, or let me talk to my. Well, there's no time to waste because you've unpacked everything for them because of your questions. Right? Questions have power. Learn how to use them to really get to know your prospect and put yourself completely in their shoes.
And that was Carlos, but can I add something real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was going to say also like a really, why that's also really important, just kind of like giving an example is, sometimes parents or...
Carlos, I'm sorry, would you mind speaking up a bit? It seems like you're a bit far from the speaker.
Oh, that was Carlos previously, but it's Zach speaking.
Oh, sorry, Zach. Go ahead.
It's fine. But I was going to say, one thing I was going to say, like the importance of it is just, sometimes when parents come in or even if it's a family member, when it comes to like probing and getting to those heartfelt goals, sometimes people are, I guess, kind of like shy, or I wouldn't say shy, or just kind of like, or kind of just withholding information, I guess you can say. So like once you really, get deeper into it, sometimes the parent might be like, my kid is doing really well, but they're not where they want to be and things like that. So then you can, I guess, kind of dive deeper into like, I guess, the sales process, being like, oh, we do have exceptional trainers and things like that. So then it's not just for a membership. You can see like, the real reason why the child or the parents really want to bring in.
No, great point. Some of the youth that comes in, the parents are looking to see if they can put them in a social environment where they'll thrive in and feel comfortable in, right? And if that's their primary goal, we can determine that in our probing phase, right? And if we've employed the right trainers that have that personable attitude and really are welcoming, then we're confident that by the time we go out there and introduce them to the trainers, that it will be the solution for them to get them out of their shell and to feel confident in what they do, right? So that's a great addition to that, Zach. Dan, anything that you've seen as far as the probing phase that's worked to be able to unpack these things?
One thing came to mind. I don't do this often, but once in a while, because it just depends on how busy it is and what time, doing a meeting with someone. But maybe this is jumping too far ahead, but just, shooting around with them a little bit, that really seems to break the ice, or letting them use the shooting machines for like 5 minutes. And then you kind of also to see their skill level as well. And then a lot of times they'll just be so excited and enjoying themselves so much that they just want to get a membership as quickly as possible.
100%. I think Kelvin had touched on this, being able to just not describe the experience, but also just have them actually experience it is a different type of stimulus, right? So we'll definitely get to that during the tour phase, but just unpacking any things that's worked for you in the probing phase. So one of the things that I always harp on is we know what the objections are, right? We've heard it. We know exactly what that looks like. So, what are the primary objections that you guys have heard?
Whenever they're not the primary decision maker, whenever like, oh, I gotta.
Definitely one of them. Anything else?
Just too expensive.
Price, right? Anything else?
For us, sometimes it's distance as well.
Schedule, right? Are they going to use this often enough, right? So we've identified 3. There's one more.
For us right now, it's space. So we during our peak hours, if we have a family that comes in here, it could be a little bit of a turnoff. Obviously, that due to what's going on, and then them just being able to want to make sure that they have space for their child to be able to kind of participate. So that's kind of what we're doing with right now.
Sure. And that's essentially tied into price and value, right? The last one that we've found is just urgency. Is this something that I need right now, right? So, they'll give you something along the lines of a smoke screen of, oh, let me think about it, or I'll get back to you in a week or so, right? Have you guys heard that before?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so those are the 4 objections, right? So the primary one is what Ashley and Dan were alluding to, which is price. Price is the function of value. So that's why we go through this probing stage to determine their values, and we can align it with ours, right? The second one is something that Carlos and Zach was alluding to, which is schedule. Does it fit them in terms of can they use it often enough to warrant paying for the price? Yeah? Another one is decision making. I got to talk to my wife, or I got to talk to my husband, or whoever. I got to talk to my coach, or I got to talk to my mom and dad, right? They can't pull the trigger because they're not the decision maker. And then lastly is, do we build enough urgency for them to need it now? Or will they tell us later in the conversation, let me think about it, or let me get back to you? All right, so let's unpack each of those individually. So how do we overcome price?
Build value.
That's right, build value. So if you go through the probing stage and you determine what it is, what their core pain points are, what their core goals are, and as Kelvin was alluding to, what he does is when, just based on his responses from before, when he asks a question, he's actively listening to them to see if he can create solutions in his head to kind of have in his back pocket. So when he goes out on a tour, he's firing those solutions and they're sniping right at the heart of that prospect. Yeah?
Excellent.
So determine that during your probing phase and be very, very detail oriented. Don't let them off with just responding to surface layer answers. Keep peeling back their onion until you get to the emotion of what actually drives their decision. Right? Because people don't make decisions off of logic. People make decisions off of what moves them in here. Right? Get to in here. Because you're not going to win the battle up here. Yeah? All right, so that's price and value. The next one is schedule. It's rather easy to unpack this objection. How do we block this objection in the probing phase?
Sometimes we have it before we go over essentially before we do the tour more so because if the schedule doesn't work at all with like their work or life, then almost there's some people there's almost no point in now if they can't come. If most of any of the adult officiated runs they're here for the runs, then that saves you time on giving a tour and then finding that out later.
Right. So you had alluded to this earlier too, Carlos and Zach. I think one of the first probing questions you asked, how far are you from the gym? Right? Where do you live? Where do you work, right? How often do you anticipate using the gym? Or how often did you use your past gym if you had a gym membership elsewhere? Or how often did you go to the park if you play basketball at the park, right? Get an understanding of their past gym use or park use or past experience, and get an understanding of their anticipated use. So that way you can align it with our schedule. Yeah. So if they say, hey, I don't know if I find value in the gym, but they've told you they're going to they come in every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday to hoop. That's 3 times a week. You multiply that by the 4 weeks in the months, that's 12 visits, right? And if they're willing to pay, say a $5 or $10 day pass, that's between $60 to $120, which is exactly our membership range, right? So any excuse they may have about, the price not warranting their gym use is out the window, because they've already told you how often they're going to use the gym. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
I was also gonna say, kind of like piggybacking off some of the stuff you said, when it comes to like past use as far as like gyms, one thing I noticed, especially working at other gyms, is like just like what we have to offer here, like with the multiple courts. Like if you go anywhere else, I'm not sure how like other places are kind of are set up, but there's not really anywhere to hoop. Like whether if it's outside or even if you're going to a different gym, they're like really restricted on what they're able to do. So being able to come in here and being able to have go as free as you want, I feel like that kind of also kind of creates the urgency and like why wouldn't you sign up if you can't really hoop anywhere else?
100%, right? And this is something that I always encourage people is we know what their challenges are for the most part, right? So we don't want to be the ones to express it because it's less impactful that way. We want them to express it. So the best way to get them to express it is through your series of questions to lead them through that thought process. And once you get there, then they'll start thinking to themselves and be like, oh, you know what? I can't find this anywhere else. So this might be the solution for me, right? So let them express those kind of those values rather than us speaking for them. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. So schedule, we can just ask them, right? And if they're interested in open gym time, right? And if they say that, they're free in the morning or free in the early afternoon, that's a perfect fit, right? Because most of our gyms aren't quite as crazy during that time. Unlike what Ashley was suggesting, when we run our services, there's a ton going on, right? So it wouldn't be a best fit. But, if they're looking for recreational and they're looking for competitive play, the officiated games time in the evening is the best fit for them. And if we ask them what their schedule looks like and they tell us, yeah, I usually get out of work around 5 and, I go to the gym Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday, perfect. It's a perfect aligned fit, right? So now we unpack that schedule objection. Anything to add with the schedule objection? How to unpack that in the probing phase?
Yes, sir.
Nope. Perfect. All right. Next is decision making. So how were we able to unpack this during the probing phase?
Yeah. Simply, I guess, in that's the nicest way possible. Like, hey, are you? I pretty much, I guess, the way to word it. I mean, still working on like the proper wording for it. But hey, essentially, are you looking to close today? Like, let's say everything goes good. Would you be able to? Would you looking to start hooping with us today? Would you be able to sign up, lock everything in today? And essentially, would you like, yeah? And then, and essentially, would you need to go like confer with someone else or wait till or everything? Because like, it's essentially in a way of kind of doing them a favor. Like, I want to get you hooping today. I want to get everything locked in. You here. You have your basketball, you have your shoes. Our games are, I set up your tour 5 minutes for our games. You love everything. Let's get you started right now, essentially. And so,
right. Beautiful. Anything to add to that from anyone else?
Normally, if I have someone who I feel like is not making the decision, like I know they have to go home and talk to someone else, then I try to give them a hit time. That's the next time we're going to communicate. Like, you need the weekend to go home and talk to your husband. Okay, well, let's talk on Sunday. Let's see, you know what I mean, what you guys have come up with on that day. So I'm going to send them a text. I'm going to send them an email. I'm going to call them. I'm going to do what I can to get them back. Because at the end of the day, sometimes we go through that conversation and then they don't come back to confirm.
Right. So again, just going back to the point that your time is valuable, right? So you want to use it to things that are actually going to make you money. So if you're able to determine that this individual is not necessarily the decision maker, get that right off the bat, right? So say something along the lines of, hey, I'm glad to have this conversation with you. Is there anyone else that you need to confer with or to communicate with before we move forward with one of our membership options? Right? It's like, oh no, 100%. My husband and I, we make this decision together. So I'm sure he wants to see the kids in here and see how they do. 100% agree with you. Again, just pausing the role play here. Always empathize with their position, so they see that you understand it through their eyes, right? Just like KJ was suggesting. So yeah, I 100% agree with you. So when can we get you and your husband to come in with your kids to experience the gym together, right? So, that way you're not wasting the rest of this sales tour over something that's not going to close right now, right? But you're still setting a detailed next step for when it's conducive to actually close. And you're now focusing your time then that can actually convert into something rather than wasting your time now. Because once you can set the detailed next step, you can focus on the next person that's going to put money in your bank account, right? That's going to enhance your paycheck right now. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So your time is valuable. Use it wisely. Disqualify or set detailed next steps if you can't determine if this is the decision maker right now. So again, just to reiterate, say something along the lines of, you've determined that this person may not be able to pull the trigger themselves. Hey, I'd love to go over this with you. Is there anybody else that you'd like to include in the conversation before you move forward with this decision? Right? So unpack that right off the bat in the probing stage. So you're not wasting time on doing this amazing tour, right? This 10, 15-minute long tour that's not going to close. Yeah?
Excellent. Yes.
Anything to add to that from anyone?
I guess I have a question.
Mhm.
So are you saying that some of the prospects have no idea what the pricing is at this point?
Some of them don't. Some of them do. So either way, you're trying to get to that price point and you're trying to build value to exceed
Right.
or equal that price point. Right?
Okay.
And if you get there and they can't be the ones to pull the trigger, then it's just a waste of your time at that point, right? Just like talking to a youth member that can't sign an agreement. You can go through all the hoops and ladders,
Right.
but you're not going to make any money off of that.
Right. I know what's been effective for us is kind of not hiding or shying away from the price. We make the value, we make it feel like it's almost exclusive. So sometimes that initial phone conversation, we're already kind of, as we are hopefully given the visual of what this place looks like, and then the offerings that we have, we then kind of go, if the conversation kind of unravels that way, we go ahead and start talking about pricing. So then they can talk to whoever you need to talk with before you either come in. So you're already digesting how much it may cost me monthly, how much it may cost me yearly. So when they're getting here, that we're not hiding from it. It's
Right.
exclusive here. You want to be here. So we don't want to shy away from our pricing. So what's been effective for us is just, if the conversation goes there, and for us, we're those probing questions, we're trying to get it to go there, to talk about that price. So half of the battle is already won when they're
Right.
here, and then again, that's less time I got to spend with you. Now it's just, I'm making you feel good when you're here. We already know the price. So
Right.
that's kind of what's
Yeah.
been really effective for us.
So it seems like you win that battle during your prospecting phase, right? So they have that understanding already. And so you've done all the prep work during your conversations and prospecting that has gotten them to this value point that exceeds our price. And when they come in, it's just the validation of in person, just seeing everything in person. And that's
Exactly.
right.
Exactly.
Yep, and
Disqualifying them or disqualifying them as soon as possible. Disqualify them if you have to. If they're not a good fit, don't waste any of your time or their time. right? But your time is more valuable, right? So disqualify them in the prospecting phase. Hey, is this, unfortunately I call them busters. I don't know if you guys heard me use this terminology before, but if, the groups that are most likely busters are unfortunately college students, right? Because they don't necessarily have the income for this, right? Even though they find value in it, they can't pull the trigger. They don't have the resources, right? And there's other groups like that that's not going to necessarily fit with our solutions, and that's fine. The sooner we determine that, the less time we're wasting on those individuals. Yeah.
Hey, Paulo. So if say like for instance on a phone call, would you, and they're probing me about price, and then would you tell them the initiation fee as well, or would you want to build the value first and shy away from that to let them see the facility?
Yeah, well, obviously it's a different experience when you explain it verbally as opposed to seeing it in person. But, if you've kind of gone through a bit more probing, I'd love to share with you our different options here, but just help me understand what you're looking for, right? Gain control of the conversation again over the phone. So that way they're answering your questions and give you more information on them. And then at that point, now you can align specific solutions for them. And you're, like Ashley suggested, we don't need to shy away from it, but first we need to understand who they are and what they're looking for, and if we're a fit for them, right? And once we understand that, okay, perfect. So it seems like and then validate it with them. So it seems like you're looking to use the gym for our refereed pickup games, and you're coming, about 3-4 times per week. Is that right? And you're coming 10 minutes away. Perfect. So just to let you know, Dan, our membership option that comes with the officiated games is currently X. There's a one-time initiation fee for that monthly plan, which is X. I'd love to have you come in so I can show you around the facility and you can experience it in person. When's the best time to schedule that appointment, right? So you're not shying away from it, but you're also uncovering them first.
Okay, perfect.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Paulo, it's Maggie.
Hey, Maggie.
I was just going to add in real quick, just because we are obviously newer, so we do shy away from saying the price and things, just because most people actually have never heard of us nor been to our facility. Is that something we should not be doing now, or should we keep doing that? Just because we are newer, and I feel like people understand it a lot more when somebody actually comes in and sees the gym, rather than just, nobody's really been talking about it to them. They're just randomly saw us off the highway or something.
To answer your question, Maggie, it's not something I'm going to dictate to you guys. What works for you is what works for you, right? So that's not something that we put in the brand standards as far as, hey, you absolutely have to give them the price, or on the opposite end of the spectrum, you absolutely have to avoid giving them the price, right? So it's going to, everything is kind of just reading your prospect and kind of qualifying them and disqualifying them to determine how your response should be gauged.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Hey, Paulo.
Yes.
This is Eric.
Hey, Eric.
I just want to add onto that. Our experience with that topic is that start giving pricing over the phone. It becomes now part of your sales process before you start doing the discovery. And we encounter that many people, as soon as they hear the price, they don't want to hear anything else. You don't have the chance to build any value. And probably what they're doing is they're calling now Fitness Connection next door, and they're saying, well, they have a basketball court and they're $10 a month. You're telling me that you're going to be charging me $80 a month. So we have to make the decision that we don't provide any pricing information unless it's in person. And this way our managers don't waste many hours a day trying to sell over the phone instead of selling in person. That's kind of our experience.
Yeah, and that's fair, right? Like I said, it's not something we dictate on our end. So you're going to kind of get an understanding of what works in your area and what works for the prospect that you're having that conversation with. Yeah? Okay, so is it fair to move on beyond this?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we've unpacked the price by building value, understanding pain points and goals. We've unpacked the schedule by understanding their past use and their anticipated future use. We've unpacked the decision-making process by, asking them flat out, hey, is there someone that we need to discuss with? And then lastly is urgency. So what have you guys found is the best way to unpack that
Um, for us,
in the
definitely whenever
probing phase?
for the urgency.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Essentially, I'll touch on what you were saying earlier. Let's say if it is like someone who only has literally they're trying to do like a combine soon, to have a tryout. If there's a time limit on that, then you can definitely utilize that. Say, hey, we'll come in here, possibly maybe even personal training might be, so you can get those. Well, our group class training, we'll get see some strides in that. Maybe with 15-minute one-on-one sessions, you can use as many of those during a week as you'd like to. You'll see bigger strides in that. Or of course, if you do have like a deal person at your club currently that's going on that may be ending, or maybe if you don't, maybe you do have that deal that's hey, this is what I can do for you today. We won't have this available next week. If you go ahead and lock it in between this timeline, yeah, to kind of create that need now, instead of, because a lot of times like whenever they might leave, hey, I'm gonna follow up with you tomorrow, and then tomorrow never comes, or and stuff like that, where you call me, giving the voicemail and stuff like that. So essentially saying, hey, if you want the best deal now would be the time to go ahead and lock this in. You have to get, instead of like wanting it later on, like next month, and then you're spending more money per monthly and you're having a higher setup or something like that.
100%. So using deadlines, number one, that you've unpacked during the probing phase, and number two, using our limited time pricing offerings to kind of create a little bit more urgency. Very good. Anyone else want to add to that?
I think I do it the same way as far as setting deadlines. I just try to confirm the next time that they do have time to talk to me. Like if they don't make the decision, like I already said before, okay, well, I'll call you Sunday at 12. Does that work? Can we talk then? And they'll tell me yes or no. And if they say no, I'll say, okay, well, what about 2? I just try and confirm a time that I know for a fact we can get this done. And if they're
Setting
not
detailed next steps is important. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and if they don't seem like they want to confirm that conversation, then I'm not going to waste too much more time, because they obviously aren't sure.
Now, KJ, are you suggesting that this is an in-person conversation that you're looking to kind of create a follow-up phone call with, or is this a phone call conversation that you're looking to set a detailed next step? In person. Okay, so what I want you guys to get in the mindset of is winning that in-person battle then and there, right? Because the moment they walk out that door, Pickup USA is far from their mind, right? It's far from the forefront of their mind. They're in there, we need to strike while it's hot, right? So we need to try to close that deal then and there. If not, our chances diminish significantly. And it's not that it's impossible to get them back and sign up, but it's less likely than actually closing the deal during their first visit. Is that something that you guys would agree with?
Yes, sir, definitely.
Perfect. So with that, we want to be able to understand their commitment level, because they've already shared with us their goals and their pain points. So ask something along the lines, this is in the membership questionnaire, by the way, ask something along the lines of, hey, KJ, you've told me that you were looking for, a place to hoop off in. You're not finding that at 24. It's a hit or miss there. You're also looking to, get back in shape. I know you mentioned that you have a wedding to get to in a couple months and you're looking to look right, in a couple months. Let me ask you this. If I was to ask you, how committed are you to reaching those goals on a scale of 1 to 10? Right? And they're going to respond within that spectrum, right? If they say 10, then there's really no excuse, right? They've already identified and told you that I need this now. So that's an easy close, right? But most likely scenario is that they're going to be somewhere in between. If it's below a 6, then you can disqualify them pretty much immediately, right? They're more on the buster end of the spectrum, right? But if they say something along, which is the most likely scenario of 7 or 8 or 9 even, a follow-up question that you can ask is, make sense KJ, help me understand why you didn't say a 3. So how would they respond to that? How would you imagine they would respond to that question? Or KJ, if I was to ask you that, how would you respond?
Why I didn't say 3?
Yeah.
I'm more dedicated to doing this. I'm ready to get going. I guess if their number would be less than 6, that's because something is holding them back.
Well, beautiful. Let me stop you right there. Sorry to interrupt, but what were you doing to yourself when I asked you that question? You were basically convincing yourself why you need this now.
Right. Okay.
Right? And I didn't do it. I didn't say it for you. I just led you to say it for yourself.
Like that.
Right? And that has way more impact than me making that statement for you. But I'm going to ask you questions to lead you to those conclusions that are impactful to your decision making. Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely.
So you've unpacked their goals, you've unpacked their pain points. Hey, Mr. Prospect, Miss Prospect, help me understand on a scale of 1 to 10, how committed are you to this? Oh, somewhere around 7 or 8. Okay, that's fair. Help me understand, why you didn't say a 3. Oh, it's COVID and I've been sitting for 5 months and I haven't been doing anything. So, now's really the time for me to commit. And I told my wife that I'm going to get in shape because, I'm starting to experience some health issues. They're telling you everything why they need this right now, right? And you're learning more about them. So that's one end of the spectrum. The other end of the spectrum is you can ask them, hey, Mr. or Miss Prospect, why didn't you say a 10? So what's that going to unpack? What's that going to give you an understanding of? It's going to give you an understanding of their obstacles, right? Yeah, I'm just a bit lazy, to be honest with you. I love when they say that. Oh, to be honest with you. Just looking for motivation. Oh, okay, makes sense. Now, you had mentioned that you were interested in private training, right? So if we can group you with someone that can kind of give you that reassurance and that, assistance, is this something that would get you to commit a little more? Oh, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. So now you've just helped them find a solution to their obstacles. Make sense? And you've taken that commitment level or that urgency level from something that was wavering to something that's more committed. So at the end of the conversation, you're avoiding, you know what? Let me think about it. Or let me get back to you in a week. Well, you had mentioned that you were pretty committed to this, right? Does that make sense? Anything to add to that, guys? Any questions, comments?
No. No.
I'm going to use it. That's good stuff.
Beautiful. Okay, so now we've unpacked everything. We've uncovered all their objections. There should be no excuse at this point, right? So now we have all the ammo in the world to be able to snipe them during our tour and prove that we are the solution to their pain points and their goals, right? So now the tour is the easiest part. So as Kelvin was alluding to earlier, and I think Zach was alluding to earlier, go to the different areas that makes the most sense for them to find value in our gym. And not only explain it, have them, like Dan said, shoot around with them if that's what they're interested with, right? Be their hype man on the shooting machine. Show them the Vertimax, get them a few reps on that thing, right? Things that they normally wouldn't see elsewhere that gives us a competitive edge, right? Don't highlight it just verbally, highlight it where they're experiencing it, smelling it, listening to it, feeling it. All of that makes an impact in their decision-making process. Yeah? And prior to actually walking out, the segue from the probe to the prove section is the overview of the schedule, right? So you understand their schedule, now you're gonna align it with our club schedule. So Mr. and Miss Prospect, you were telling me that you can come in Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 6 p.m. Perfect. You'd mentioned that you were looking for runs. That's exactly when we have our officiated games. And you had also mentioned some Saturdays and Sundays you'll be able to make it in the early afternoon. Perfect. Here's our schedule for that. I'd love to dive into the specifics of those services when we go around our tour. But did you have any questions before we walk around? No? Perfect. Would you mind if I walk you around the facility and show you what we have to offer? Boom. And then you go ahead and prove it. Any questions about the proving phase? Good. I'm trying to rush through it. We have 5 minutes left here. So proving is really easy, and it's actually the most fun part, right? You get to kind of show what you guys have put so much effort in managing, right? You're running those services right. Everything is clean. All our 5 pillars are hitting on every point. Now we've proved that we are a solution. We come back to the desk and we make an offer, right? So with the offer, any quick tidbits as far as how that goes for you guys? Anyone? Ash?
Battery is dying. As far as the offer, we kind of again go through like the breakdown. They should kind of already have an idea of the overall overview and the pricing. At least for us. So when our final step to finally get that card, we're showing them where the most they can save the money, and then obviously kind of starting with month to month. We're just really finding out where they're going to fit in financially, and really making them that empathy work is important during that time.
100%.
They're making an investment in themselves. They're making an investment into Pickup USA. So that time is really huge for empathy. So just really trying to figure out, what works best for you? Is it starting here month to month? With that month to month comes your $99 initiation fee or whatever your initiation fee is. Show them that, and then on the other side, the year membership, and what that can be. So for us, 75% of the work is already done, so that ending is pretty easy because they already have made up in their mind what they want to do.
I would suggest more than 75%, Ash.
Yeah, it is. So that part we do a lot of empathy, and hey man, we just try to make sure they're building confidence in their decision. Sometimes they're looking back behind where our seats are. They're looking behind like, all right, you know what, this is the right decision. So I would say empathy, being very transparent and organized in the way that you present the numbers. I think we've, depending on how long you've been here, just knowing what your numbers are, having knowledge of that, the more you're comfortable, the more you're going to be able to, give it to somebody else to make them feel comfortable about it.
I love it. Yeah, 100%. One thing that I do want to point out as we come to the conclusion of the call is, don't negotiate against yourself, right? So what I mean by that is, if you make an offer, you stand by that offer, and you're going to essentially not talk after you made an offer until they talk, right? And they'll have to give you a counter as to why that, even though they love it, they find value in the gym, that's just not within their budget. So at this point, it's just determining their budget, right?
Yeah,
and not negotiating against yourself.
And letting them know, like, oh, thanks. Letting them know, like, we're here to make this work for all of us. So again, that kind of that goes into the empathy, not stressing one way or the other, putting it back on them. What works for you? What works best for you? And then allowing them, instead of us making the decision for them, allowing them to make the decision. They get to have some ownership of that.
Right, 100%, right? So the first offer that we make is our monthly with our initiation, right? And if they give you pushback on that, the pushback is going to sound something along the lines of, let me think about it, right? Which we've already kind of discussed before. Now, if we've done all the pre-work in the probing phase to build that urgency and to build the value and unpack all the objections, now there's really nothing to think about. So that's essentially a smokescreen, right? So at this phase, don't be afraid to be audacious and blunt. So what I mean by that is say something along the lines of, hey, you know, I understand where you're coming from. Usually at this stage when, you know, when a guest tells me that they need to think about it, it usually means one of two things. Either one, you know, you're not interested at all and you're just giving me, you're just a really polite guy and are letting me off easy, which I appreciate. Or it's two, you know, you find value in what we do and you think that this is a fit, but you have concerns about your budget. So of those two, which one is it? Now they're going to be honest with you. You gave them the forum to tell you no, right? That's fine. Give them the access to tell you no, because then that builds rapport and earns your trust, because you're not pushing them or pigeonholing them into a corner trying to get them to sign up. As Ashley suggested, have empathy, right? So if they say that it is a fit, oh, you know what, Dan, it is the budget, right? Like, you know, I love this place and I think that I want to be here, but I'm a bit, you know, it's a lot for me right now. And again, as Ashley alluded to, always empathize with their position, right? I get it. You know, I'm with you. Help me understand, you know, obviously we have our two variables here. We have our monthly and we have our initiation fee. So of those two variables, which is the one that concerns you the most, right? And now they're going to be real with you. And they're going to tell you most likely it's what? Initiation. What have you guys found? Initiation. And we have a negotiation workflow that's outlined to be able to help them with that, right? So then you just go through the series of your negotiation workflow. But don't let them off the hook, right? Get them to be real with you. And at this point, you should have had enough trust equity with them for them to be honest with you. Yeah? So that concludes our hour. I mean, I'm sure we can kind of go on and on about all of this. I know you guys have had a ton of experience, and thank you guys so much for being a part of this and sharing. You know, anytime you guys have any questions about any particular aspect of our operations or our sales program, let me know. And I'd love to have more of these for us to kind of share best practices.
Absolutely. Thanks, Paulo. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you so much.
Hey, finish the month strong.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Go.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye.